Boy, are we excited. We've got a very special guest who's joining us here on the show, coming to us from California. Sandra Lee Gimpel is here, known as Sandy to many. Sandra, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I
Oh,
appreciate it.
I am so excited. We might even have your cat join us too, right? You never know. The cat is a star. Many of you may know Sandy for her extraordinary work as a legendary actress, stunt woman extraordinaire, also a revered stunt coordinator and dancer. And she has been a part of our lives in so many ways, shapes, and forms. When you look back at her exemplary career, which continues today, you'll realize that she's touched us in so many different ways on television and film and stage, all the way back to some of your favorite TV shows and your favorite movies. And she has worked with Elvis on countless films, amazing stories about working with Elvis. She's worked with William Shatner. She was involved with Seinfeld, Jerry Seinfeld and his crew, and so many beloved shows and performances. And we're very, very excited to have an opportunity to chat with her. I mean, everything from Lost in Space. Yeah, she was a double for Billy Mooney. Could you imagine that as well? And her time with Star Trek. Absolutely. Many of you remember her roles on Star Trek and the involvement as well. Salt Vampire. We got the Star Trek fans out there. You're going to love this conversation too. But also, in addition to those iconic roles, a lot of time with Elvis Presley, starting out with Clam Bake, which was the beginning, leading to a lot of other incredible epic films with Elvis and the gang. A phenomenal shot here as well. We'll talk about that. But did you know that our beloved and revered guest was also on, and I forgot about this when I was doing the research. I was like, oh my God, that's right. She was on Planet of the Apes as well. Yes, she was in Planet of the Apes. She was in Airplane. Remember that Girl Scout scene? And another classic favorite. Matter of fact, we had Marty Krofft, the beloved Marty Krofft, on with us not too long, prior to his passing, unfortunately. But Sid and Marty Krofft were known as the kings of children's television, kids television, especially in the 70s. Well, guess what? Who was a double for Grandma Clock?
No, I was Grandma Clock.
You were Grandma Clock. You were the double for Witchy Poo on HR Pufnstuf. That's right. She was Grandma Clock. And the double for Witchy Poo, which is amazing as well. And we remember that series, growing up with that series as well. She also was in Battlestar Galactica, folks. That iconic, fabulous film as well. And when you look at it all, it's amazing the scope of her work, gang. Escape from New York. Yep, she was in that as well. I mean, she was with Bionic Woman. There she is as Fembot. Look at that shot. We're going to talk about, too, what it was like to actually have an opportunity to play these roles, but to actually spend the time to be in makeup and, go through everything it takes to take on these characters. And she's also in a lot of your current commercials. You see her in Capital One. That's her hanging upside down, and Dentine commercials and E-Trade commercials. I mean, she does it all. She's everywhere. She's omnipresent. She also has had an opportunity to be in fabulous movies with Jim Carrey, like Bruce Almighty and The Truman Show. She also worked with Rob Schneider in The Animal, and she also worked in The Rock and Miracle Worker and Goonies. There's the stunt crew as well. This is just the short list, folks. If you look at her body of work, it is everything, everywhere, and it has been for many, many years. Even Avalanche, Towering Inferno. Remember that one? It goes on and on. We're going to talk about it all, sprinkle it, and just teasing you guys with some of it. She's also penned a fabulous book that she's going to talk about, that she has with her. And there it is, Stunt Lady. This is going to be a terrific read, folks, if you don't have it. And she's going to be in Georgia at Fest that is coming up. This is in April. She's going to be in Duluth, Georgia. The great folks at Stellar Fest are putting this on with some of your classics, and amazing people from film and television and so much more are going to be there, including Sandy. Sandy, you have been one busy lady all these years. Welcome to the Gym Masters Show, my friend.
Oh, thank you. I can't complain. I've been very blessed, very, very blessed.
You have, and we have been blessed being witness to all of your incredible work, which is just blows me away when I look back at it all. And I remember so many things you've been a part of, Sandy. How did it all begin for you? Were you a rambunctious kid running around the house full of energy when you were growing up? Tell us about that, because that energy has not gone away.
No, well, listen, there's an old motto: you don't grow up, just stay a kid. And one thing about working in my business is that you get to stay a kid. But yeah, I drove my mom crazy. She actually started my sister and I in dance class to keep us out of trouble. And it didn't really work well with me, because I'd come home with black and blue marks and she'd go, "Where'd you get that? Oh my God." And I go, What are you talking about? I don't have anything. So that was a little weird, but it was, the dancing is what she started me out doing, and really, just to keep me busy. And she wanted me to be a teacher. She wanted me to go to school and get a degree and, do all the normal stuff normal people do. And I actually did go to school for 2 years. I got my applied arts degree in theater arts, and was going to go on to college to finish the third and fourth year so that I could teach school, because that's what she wanted, and really wasn't what I wanted. But they had an audition for a show out here in Los Angeles called Pacific Ocean Park. It was a theme park, a carnival kind of thing out at the beach. And they were looking for dancers to play Jack and Jill, to bring the people into the park, because Westinghouse was showing off their new appliances and stuff. And this was like in 1960 and 1959 and 60. And I auditioned for the part, didn't get the job, and was very disappointed, and went back, okay, now I guess I have to go to school. And a week later, they called and said, one of our girls is pregnant and she can't do the show. You still want to do the show? I couldn't get yes out of my mouth fast enough. And so I did that show for 3 years. That's how I started out, dancing. And I actually, during that time, I auditioned for West Side Story movie, and went in and got a job. They picked me to be a jet because my hair was really dark and really long, and I was young, of course. And Westinghouse, which I had a 3-year contract with, wouldn't let me out of my contract. So I couldn't do West Side Story. So when the contract was up, and by that time I knew a lot of dancers, professional dancers, and where all the auditions were happening, and everybody kind of shared everything with everybody. And so I auditioned for The Pleasure of His Company with Debbie Reynolds and Fred Astaire, got picked to do the show, got to dance with them, and got in the business that way. That's how I got in the business, and went on to double Debbie for the rest of her life.
Isn't that amazing to have that opportunity, and to probably build a bond and a friendship with her too, right? Here's a wonderful photo of the two of you, these old broads with you and Debbie Reynolds. What was that relationship like with her? And of course, she is still missed to this day. She was always full of vim and vigor and just a positive force of nature. What was that relationship like? And to have that opportunity to be sort of doubling Debbie throughout her life like that, it must have been a great honor for her.
It definitely was a great honor. I mean, she was such a wonderful, wonderful person. And we did things like Halloween Town, And, we were on location, and the one thing Debbie she would never go sit in her dressing room. She would always want to be on the set. And I go, Debbie, go lay down. Go, you've been on the set all day. And she go, no, I've got to be here. It's okay. And that's the picture of us.
Halloween Town. Yeah.
And that's just the way she was. She was hands-on all the time when she was working. You'd never see her just go sit in her dressing room. And when we did These Old Broads, I actually got to stunt coordinate the show and double Debbie. And that was interesting because she always, if I told her not to do something, she always listened, especially stunt-wise. And we were doing a fight out in the parking lot with Shirley MacLaine. And Shirley's a very strong lady. And Shirley kept saying, oh, come on, Debbie, you can do this. It's just a little push thing. We're not really doing a fight. And I go, Debbie, don't do it. You're wearing a little short pink jacket with mesh hose and high heels. If you slip, you could hurt yourself. And she go, no, I know. And Shirley kept pushing her. And Debbie went finally, she said she was going to do it. And I went going, oh God, no. Well, they did their little pushing thing, and Debbie got pushed a little too hard, and she went down to her knees on the gravel. And guess what happened? And she tore her knee up. And, I yelled cut and run in there. And she looked at me, and the first thing out of her mouth is, she said, don't you dare say one word. Okay. We got the medic in and cleaned it up and changed her, her hose because they were all torn, and went back to work. And it was just, that's the kind of person she was. It was, the funny part about all that was the personalities on that show were so totally different. I mean, Debbie would come in, in the morning looking like Debbie, go to hair and makeup. And she was pretty put together, even when she wasn't, coming in at 6:00 in the morning. Shirley would come in her hair rollers and her bathrobe and her house slippers. And I'm trying to think the other lady, the main lady in the show. Oh my God, talk about a senior moment. I'll think of it in a second. Anyway, she came in dressed to the hilt, makeup on, perfect. So there were 3 totally different personalities. And Shirley kept saying to me, I was doubling Debbie, and I got Jeannie Epper to double Shirley MacLaine because she was the right height. And, and Jeannie was iconic when she was alive. I got to tell you, talk about an iconic stunt lady. And Shirley's going, well, I don't need a stunt double. I can do everything myself. And on she went. And I went, fine, whatever you want, but I'm going to have her here anyway, because I know what happens. You can do a stunt, an actor, not saying they can't do it, because they can. They can do the stunt once. Trouble is, we never do it once. We do it again and again and again. And that's where it gets to be a problem. That's where somebody could get hurt too. So, I everything was okay that way. But funny story is, we cut a year later after we finished the show, and Shirley is doing Orange County TV show. And they needed somebody to drive the car for her. And the assistant director, production manager, knew me. And he said, I'm going to bring you in to double Shirley. You're driving the car. They're not going to see the height difference, so don't even worry about that. I said, okay, no problem. So I went to work. They got me all dressed as Shirley. And the main assistant director comes out on the set and says, all right, we're bringing Shirley out. Nobody talk. Everybody be quiet. And Sandy, just stay at the car and don't bother her. I went, oh, okay. They didn't know I knew her. Well, here she comes, and she's got to be, I don't know, quite a ways away from me. And she sees me leaning on the car, screams my name, and comes running to me and gives me a hug. And literally the crew stood there with their mouth open because they didn't know what happened. It was very good.
What a story. You have so many, because you've been really in the thick of it for decades, which I think is quite amazing. The opportunities as they come sometimes can come at a moment's notice. And sometimes you think you're going to go for this, and then something else comes your way as well. You've had this wonderful opportunity, and there is the Star Trek community too, and they are fans, super fans. They love everything Star Trek. They go to conventions and they swap stories and favorite episodes as well. Being the dancer in Los Angeles and an extra for Central Casting, one of the jobs, again, was being on Star Trek, the original series, the first pilot, The Cage. Tell us about how that came your way and what an opportunity. Did you realize then? I would imagine probably not, because you were doing the work and you're incredible at what you do, but realizing that this would become, these series, these shows would become cult classics in the way that they have. How did that Star Trek experience come for you, Sandy?
Well, first of all, you go to work and you do your job and you go home and you get another job. And, you know, you never, ever, ever think about what the show is going to happen. You don't even think about it. You don't even pay attention to it. Star Trek came about because of this. This is Lost in Space. And I got a call from Central Casting. They were looking for a stand-in for Bill Mumy. He was 11 years old, and they needed a new person to, you know, stand in when they light the lights and set the cameras. And I thought, you know, we just finished doing, you know, a bunch of stuff. So Elvis has stopped doing movies by that time a little bit, and I was between shows. And so I went on this audition, and there was three girls, I think, that went on the audition, and they were going to pick somebody that they're similar height, you know, similar coloring. They did, you know, that's all they care about. And we walk into this audition and there's 8 guys sitting at a table asking questions. And I'm like, why do they want to know what I did? You know, and they're saying, well, you know, what's your timing like? What's your coordination? We understand you were a dancer. I mean, they're going on and asking me all these questions. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? So one guy stands up, who I didn't know who he was at the time. Actually, it was Paul Stater, who was the stunt coordinator. And he says to me, so have you ever thought about doing stunts? And on a Bible, I swear to you, I said, what's a stunt? Because I had no idea what he was talking about. And he explained to me that, you know, you have to fall down, you have to do this and that. And he said, you come to the gym 3 days a week with me and my guys from Stuntsmen's Association, and we will teach you how to do stunts. Because your timing is good, your coordination is good, you know, from being a dancer. And you can stand in for Bill and you can stunt double him. And I went, okay, sounds like fun to me.
How cool is that?
What is she doing? But that's how I got Lost in Space. Now,
what was it like working on that?
Oh, it was a
iconic series. God.
Right, talk about a family. It was incredible. I mean,
June Lockhart and company. Wow.
It was a total, you know, I mean, I have pictures with Jonathan Harris, who's supposed to have been, you know, he was just playing this terrible, mean character.
You're right.
Shakespearean actor. I mean, this man was an amazing actor. I mean, and I had at times, Kathy, my daughter was, I think she was 3 years old or 4 years old, maybe about 3. And I didn't have anybody to watch her. So I'd bring her on the set one day and I had given her all these orders not to talk. And she's like, you know, she knew what she said. I'm not going to talk. Don't worry, Mom. So I said, when the bell rings, you don't talk. And when 2 bells ring, you can talk. And she's like, okay. So I'm standing there holding her hand and they're, you know, the bell rings and I look at her and I go, and they start acting and she looks up at me with the loudest voice and goes, don't worry, Mommy, I'm not going to talk. I thought I was going to die. Everybody's laughing.
That was her audition.
Everybody's laughing and, you know, everything was fine to get through that. And then Jonathan wasn't in the next scene. And I had to go stand in and, you know, and work with Bill. And I look over and Jonathan's sitting there reading a book to my daughter. This is the kind of terrible guy he was. He was so nice. It was incredible. I mean, just amazing. But yeah, it was a total family. But anyway, back to Star Trek. The reason how I got that was we had been shooting for about a year and they were going to do the pilot of The Cage for Star Trek. And they knew that Paul Stater was doing a space show. And I had to wear a bunch of makeup on the show because I had been playing monsters on Lost in Space. And they had called over and said, do you have anybody or know of anybody that can wear all this makeup that because people are break out from it? And he said, oh yeah, we can give you Sandy. We don't need her next week. So she can go over and do, play a Talosian. So that's how I got Star Trek and got to play the Talosian.
What was it like? Sometimes we don't think about not only the folks that are doing the extraordinary stunts like you have done in so many television shows and movies and have helped coordinate, but then also when you're taking on these roles where you have to put all the costuming on and the hours of makeup and all. What was that process like with Star Trek?
Well, with Star Trek, it was 3.5 hours of makeup.
3.5 hours. Mm.
And because they'd have to put a ball cap on you to get rid for your hair and all that, and then all the pieces would be would be stuck to your face and then your head, and then the veins in the head had to pulsate like we were talking, because they all talk telepathically. And how they did that was, I should tell secrets. At that time, they took the veins, had a tube, and it ran down inside the costume to your hand, and you had a air ball in your hand. You squeeze the ball, and it made the things move. That's why if you look at the costumes, we had very long sleeves on that covered our hands, because Meg and myself both had to make our heads move, like we were talking. And so that's the way we did that. And
that's amazing.
Yeah. So
you mentioned this image too from Lost in Space.
That was another 3.5 hours of makeup. It's generally around 3.5 hours when you're doing stuff like this kind of look. Planet of the Apes was the same way. That was, a 3.5 hour, job to get all that makeup and stuff on too.
Absolutely. And that was groundbreaking. I remember all the fervor about Planet of the Apes and just the talk about we've never seen anything like this before. And I just remember, kids in school were talking about it the next day. People at offices were talking about it the next day. They've never seen anything like it. And it got people just thinking about, the history of man, and it was just really absolutely amazing. How did that come your way too?
That was done at Fox Studio, where I was working for Irwin Allen, doing Lost in Space. And
oh yeah,
with Lost in Space, everything, once you're on that lot, it was interesting because you got to know the other stunt coordinators. And I was so lucky is that I was doubling kids, almost all the time, because I'm 5 feet, 5'1", and the boys didn't feel competition with me. They wanted to help me. They wanted to take care of me and make sure I didn't get hurt. So I learned an awful lot from my mentors. Ron Stein did the TV series Planet of the Apes, and he had been doing Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. So I had gotten to know him pretty well. So when this job came up, he said, "You want to come, double the girl?" And she literally falls in love with the human. And when she realizes it, she runs along the cliff and falls into the ocean. And he said, "Do you want to do it?" And I went, "Yeah, of course I want to do it." So we put all the makeup on, the prosthetics, to maybe look like the picture. And I did the job. And what we did was, you couldn't run along the cliff and get into the ocean. It just was too far away. So we put up boxes, which we used to do high falls into boxes, not airbags at the time, which is actually very safe. And I fell off the mountain into the boxes, and then they put me out in the ocean and rescued me. Well, the one thing that none of us thought about, because usually this makeup is, they're sticking it back on you because it's coming off. If you get too hot and you sweat, it comes off. Went in to get the makeup off after we had finished shooting, and the salt water had adhered it to my face, and it wouldn't come off. And literally, I will never forget as long as I live, and I know it was a long time ago, sitting in that makeup chair with my hands on the sides of the chair, and they had a Q-tip and acetone underneath it, trying to get it off. And it hurts. And they're going, should we stop? We want us to stop. And I went, no, just get it off. We finally did. We got it off, but we never thought about the salt water doing that, to the makeup. It never, we were learning as we did things. The kids today have such an incredible, vast knowledge behind them that they would just listen and use it.
Yeah.
It would have saved a couple of lives, I know for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Salt Vampire, Star Trek. People remember it well.
That's another one.
Yeah. Huh? Wow.
This one.
From this beautiful woman to that. Amazing.
This costume was interesting because the head, which you see I'm holding,
yeah,
was not done, sticking pieces to my face and hood. They made a total mask out of it. And by that, they literally took a plaster cast of my face and then built this mask to fit me.
Wow. Was that hot? Was it heavy? What was it like inside? Was it claustrophobic at all? What was it like?
Well, thank God I'm not claustrophobic.
Yes, right?
But it was hot, and you couldn't see at all out of it.
Couldn't see through it.
Eyes were slits. And then if you look at the snout of the costume, it literally came out. So you couldn't see the ground, and you had no peripheral vision. And
wow.
If you look at the costume, the hands where the suckers are, where I had to put my hands on Bill Shatner's face.
Yeah, that's right.
Salt out of him. The suckers came out. My fingers stopped here. The suckers came out here. So, you forget. So I'd walk up to Shatner and I'd hit him with my hands. And the suckers would hit him in the back of the head. And we did it 2 or 3 or 4 times. And I kept smacking him in the face and smacking him. And I was like, I wanted to die. I figured, here's a big actor and I'm nobody hitting him. And I finally, Gene Roddenberry was on the set. He never left the set. And I said, look, can you guys do me a favor? Can we just take this off? And it was sewn to the costume, literally sewn on me. And let me rehearse this. Let me figure out where I am. Let me count my steps to getting to him so I don't keep screwing this up. And he understood what I was saying and he agreed. So they took the time and literally took everything off, let me do the rehearsals without the head on. So I knew what I was doing and where I had to be. And I backed up, counted my steps forward. So I hit him just perfect. And they sewed it all back together and it worked perfect.
It really is amazing when you look at it, huh? It's extraordinary. Of course, we're talking about Salt Vampire from Star Trek. All the Star Trek fans know so well. When you look back, this relationship too with the Elvis Presley movies is extraordinary. What's really amazing, Sandy, about your career is you've touched so many aspects of pop culture in television and in film. There are the diehard Elvis fans, the Star Trek fans, Seinfeld, Lost in Space. You can go back and forth, Planet of the Apes, and you have been a part of these monumental, beloved series and movies and more that people still talk about and revere and reflect on and like to dig in and know little nuggets about. Even to this day, which I think is so cool, the Elvis relationship in terms of the movies and being a part of it through your dancing and your incredible expertise. How did that all come your way? And this is a wonderful photo you sent us too.
Yeah, that we had so much fun on that. When I did Clam Bake was the first one that I did. It was either Clam Bake or it was Blue Hawaii. I can never remember which one was first, but it was right. They were both about the same time. And I don't know, for some reason, he liked me and said, you know, you want to work on more movies with us? And I went, sure. And I ended up being one of his 5 dancers that did 15 movies with him. He, you know, the one thing is funny. Everybody asks me, well, did you date him? Did you go out with him? And no, I did not. That's me in the green bathing suit over there. But I had a daughter at the time, you know, when she was very young, and I needed to work. I mean, I was a single mom, and I had to work. I had, you know, that's all I could think about was that. And I thought, you know, I've watched these girls come and go that date him, and I don't want to come and go. I want to be here. So I never dated him. Wish I did now, but no, I don't know. But I mean, talk about a good-looking guy and nice. Oh my gosh. The thing about Elvis was he was so shy. He liked having the same people around all the time. So that was kind of what happened. You know, if he liked you and he trusted you, he had you back because he wanted you around. He wanted to feel safe. And Joe Esposito and Charlie Haig and Jerry Schilling and the Mafia boys decided they liked me and they were going to take care of me and keep me out of trouble. So I'd end up going to all the rehearsals, sitting in the rehearsal hall, watching them, you know, fool around and play the music and try to work things out. I got to go play softball with them at Veterans Hospital till that got out of hand and the people started knowing that we were there, and so we had to stop. I used to go up to the house in Bel Air when they play games in the living room and, you know, just hang out. So it got to be pretty cool. I remember we were doing one rehearsal. I was in the rehearsal hall with them, and I think Kathy was a little older at the time. I think she was like 6 or something. And I had said to Elvis, you know, my daughter, I'd like her to learn how to play the guitar. Do you know what kind of guitar I should buy? And he literally went over and got a guitar and gave it to me. And I still have it. My daughter keeps saying it's hers, but it's in my house.
How cool is that? How special. He really was a nice guy, a gentleman, right? Everything. I'm friends with his cousin, Donna Presley, his first cousin. She's a wonderful person. She's been a guest on our show several times, and we talk about his legacy. And they just had the 90th birthday celebration for Elvis as well. And everything that people would hope and think about Elvis, you worked with him on so many epic films. He really was a gentleman and a nice guy, wasn't he?
Oh, he was amazing. This picture was, I think that was Speedway. And it was either Speedway or, God, there's 2 of them that we did with race cars and stuff.
Yeah.
But I remember when Lisa Marie was born, we were out at in Malibu on Pacific Coast Highway, and we were waiting for him to come in because he had been at the hospital, you know, because at least we didn't know. We knew that they were going to have a baby, but that's all we knew. And I'll never forget, he came running on the set, picked me up and swung me around in circles yelling, I've got a baby girl. I've got a baby girl. And he was so excited and so happy. It was just unbelievable. And for some reason, I just so remember that.
It's a vivid and long-lasting and beautiful memory as well. Another one, you were in California Holiday.
I know. Crack up with this. All right. You're looking at this poster, right? Take a look in the left-hand far corner of
You're in there. Yeah.
Dancing in the green shirt.
That's you.
Yep.
That's incredible. It really is. Right. And it's, I was trying to count up how many Elvis movies you were a part of. Like you said, when he felt comfortable with folks, when he realized, you know, their talent and they were there to be a part of it all, he would bring you back again and again and again because there was the trust and comfortability, and he saw your talent. so many of them you were a part of. Which did you ever think that that would happen? You were one of the go-to people.
No, it was really funny. I was doing I was working with Elvis, and then when he wasn't working, I would be doing other shows and stuff. So I kept working, and I really hadn't started doing stunt work at that time. I was still dancing and doing some background work because dancers were, in Screen Extras Guild at the time. So I'd gotten a job with Bill Bixby, doing a TV series that he was doing at the time, and I will never forget. Elvis had started a movie, and we hadn't finished doing Courtship of Eddie's Father.
Yes, with Brandon Cruz. Yep.
With Brandon Cruz. And so Elvis was coming back from lunch. We were at MGM, and Elvis was coming back from lunch with the boys out of the commissary. And Bix and I were going to the commissary. And Bill Bixby and I became really, really good friends. And that's what everybody called him. They called him Bix. And they stopped because both him and Elvis were very good friends with each other. So they stopped and they were talking, and I'm just standing there, whatever. And finally, Elvis says to Bill, "So, what's she doing on your show?" And I'm like, "Guys, I'm standing right here." And he said, and I said, "Well, you weren't doing anything." And so the next thing out of their mouth was, "When are you finishing?" And Bix is going, "We finish in a week." And at that point, Elvis looks at me and he turns and he goes, "Okay, in 1 week, when you're done, you call my producer and you tell him that you're on my show and he's to put you on immediately." I go, "Yes, sir." But that's the kind of guy he was.
Wow. That's amazing. It really is. I love these stories that you're sharing. You're a wonderful, I know you've heard it before, but you're a wonderful storyteller, Sandy. You really are taking us back to these wonderful moments in your life that have been part of our lives through the movies and television, these iconic shows and series that we're talking about. I mentioned in the sort of intro there, even touching the children of the time with HR Pufnstuf and being Grandma Clock and doubling as Witchy Poo. How did that happen as well? I mean, perfect. It really, because of your abilities, these were perfect. But how did, the Sid and Marty Krofft franchise connect with you and bring you on in these iconic roles?
I started Central Casting at the time had sent me out, to work on the show, and they knew that I was a dancer and I had good, my coordination was good and stuff. And I ended up doubling Witchy Poo because of that. And I got to play Grandma Clock. I got to play an evil tree. So, putting me in costumes was fine with them because it didn't bother me at all to be inside these things and be able to move them around because, as a dancer, you were in costumes a lot anyway. But I not only did this, I also did Lidsville for them. Got to be really good friends with Sid and Marty Krofft. I see Sid all the time now. Miss Marty a lot. And that he and I were
wonderful man.
Friends. We used to go to lunch together all the time. He just was a good guy, and
was wicked sense of humor too.
I really loved him. I really adored him. And Marty, I now I've gotten to know Marty better. It's really interesting. Later in life, I've gotten to know him better because I see him all the time now. I see him at the conventions and the shows and stuff, where Sid Wyllie wasn't on the set as much as Marty was for some reason. And Marty was more, hands-on with what was going on the set, and Sid was taking care of the other ends of the business.
The business part, right?
Putting it together and after it was shot and all that. So it's interesting how things have changed. Since he's passed away, of course, I don't get to see him, but I love his daughters, because they were in the office all the time, working in the office and stuff. So I'd go out and hang out even, a few years or a year before, Marty died, excuse me. I'd go to CBS Radford and, go sit in the office and hang out and talk to them because it was just, they were like family, is really starting my career.
Exactly right. And what a franchise, the amount of shows and productions that they've been a part of, and real cult like following that these series still have today as people reference them in pop culture, which is really amazing. Something else too, uh, Bionic Woman, Fembot. Now look at this, folks. Have you ever had a day where you feel like that? This is amazing. It really is. And of course, Bionic Woman, an iconic series. How did this come your way as well? And what was it like taking on that cool role?
Well, I got to double Jennifer Darling, who played
Yes,
the secretary. And
right.
basically, what happened was in those days, you could work background work and you could do stunts. You could kind of do anything you wanted to. Nobody cared. Well, what happened was we were doing a show called Nickelodeon, a feature. Hal Needham was directing, or was actually stunt coordinating, second unit directing, with Peter Bogdanovich was directing. And I got a call to do Bionic Woman when we finished. And
There we go. Now, who do we have there? Tell us about our special guest star.
this is Corky. That's my boy. Anyway, so I got a call to do Bionic Woman, and Hal says to me, that's a complete stunt job. You have to make a decision right now before you take that job. If you want it, you cannot do background work anymore, because times were changing by that time, and some people were, more Screen Actors Guild, and the others was more SEG background work. And I made the decision never to do background work again and just do stunts. And I knew it was a hard decision because I was doing very well doing both. But I took Bionic Woman and got to double Jennifer Darling and got to do all of her stunts and got to play fembots. I got to double her when she was a fembot. There she is. That's me, actually. And worked with Lindsay Wagner and bunch of stunt people. I mean, we had a great time on that show. And I got to do the entire series. And there were times that were hard. There was one show we were doing. I not only got to double her doing the fembot, but I got to play like nondescript fembots, like when they needed more fembots running around. There was one day that Jeannie Epper and I were playing fembots, just ND fembots, running across the God, what were we? We were running across the reservoir, and they're being chased, and they're shooting at us. So now we have on these masks, right? And on top of the mask, they've put a helmet with a plastic that goes across your face over the mask and your costume. And now you're running and they're shooting at you. And you have to, they shoot you in the back and your back goes up in flames and you fall down. And then the guys come in with the fire extinguishers and put you out. Sounds easy, right?
For you, baby. You're the expert.
We're back to not knowing what can happen. They've got the fire extinguisher. You're laying flat on the ground, and they're blowing the fire extinguisher on, putting the flames out. They get the flames out. Well, the smoke from the fire extinguisher gets underneath the helmet, between the helmet and the mask, and starts seeping into your face, and you can't breathe. And I mean, literally cannot breathe. And you can't get this thing off. And I mean, it probably was a matter of a minute, and it felt like God knows how long, until we finally got the whole, tearing the apparatus off, but it was just one of those quirk things that you just don't think about, you know.
Have you had, I mean, obviously a brilliant dancer, wonderful actress, but the stunt woman and double and all the other work that you've done where there is the risk and the physicality of it that you have to prepare for. Have there been times like that on sets where things were a little close call, or
Oh yeah.
did you ever decide, oh, gee, that was a little too close for me? Or did you love the work so much you just wanted to keep doing it, Sandy?
I never wanted to stop. I still don't want to stop. You know, the one thing I learned when I was growing up from my mentors, you know, working and learning, was check your rigging. Know if you're not happy, say something, open your mouth. You're the one on the rig. You're the one that's going to be doing the stunt. So make sure that you know what you're doing and you're happy, you know, with how they've rigged it, because you always have riggers on the set doing the job. You don't rig yourself, not for your own gag. And I learned that, and I paid attention to that. And I never sat in the dressing room. I always watched. I'd go watch, even if I wasn't, you know, involved in the stunt and they were going to be setting a car up or they'd be setting something up. I'd go watch to see how they did it. And if I wanted to know something, I'd wait till nobody was busy and go over and say, you know, do you mind me asking, why did you do such and such over here with this? And they would tell me, you know, they very happy to, as long as they weren't busy, you know, they would tell me. So it actually saved my life more than once. And I mean, literally saved my life. And it never stopped me from wanting to do anything, though. I mean, we were doing, okay, here's a prime example. We did Bring 'Em Back Alive with Bruce Boxleitner TV series. I don't know if you guys remember it or not. We were out.
I think on CBS. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was doubling an Oriental girl because they couldn't find anybody that they had been in the business that wanted. There was a brand new girl, Oriental girl. She wanted to double the girl, and they were a little worried about it. And they said, no, let Sandy do it, because technically you're supposed to double your own. And I don't say this word right. And if you're white, you double white. If you're black, you double black. If you're Asian, you double Asian. You know what I mean? And I can't remember what that word is. I never say it right. Anyway, so I was doubling an Oriental girl. So she turned us into the guild, which I didn't know at the time. But we're out at Indian Dunes. They've got a motorcycle hanging off the cliff, which is 100 feet in the air. This is out where the Twilight Zone accident happened. Same place. And Bruce Boxleitner's double, Gary Epper, is supposed to swing over on a rappelling line, grab me out of the bike. We swing back. The bike drops and explodes. Okay? 7:00 in the morning. I'm dressed. Gary's still getting, you know, dressed and made to look like Bruce. And the director says to me, okay, well, it's all rigged. We hired a professional mountain climber. So when Gary gets out here, we'll put you up on the rig. I said, I want to see it. He said, oh, come on. He said, you don't need to see it. It's all, you know, we hire somebody professional. He knows what he's doing. I said, I'm not getting on the rig unless I see it. I want to make sure that I'm happy. I'm 100 feet in the air hanging on the side of a motorcycle. Well, if they could have fired me, they probably would have, because this takes time. This took 20 minutes to get up to the other side of the mountain. They finally said, okay, fine. Gary came down. I got Gary, and I said, let's go look. And so they got up. Now they've got an eye hook in the ground, this huge eye hook in the ground with the motorcycle and a trip on the motorcycle so it can drop. Gary's rappelling line is also in the eye hook. No backup ties on anything. And that bothered me. So I asked the water truck was up there, and I asked him, can we tie off on your truck? And he went, no. And I went, oh, great. Now what are we going to do? But there was a tree close enough. We had enough rappelling line that was on the ground. we tied it around the tree and double tied it. So we had a backup on one. We had only had one repelling line, which later I realized was stupid too, but whatever. We go back down. I get up on the rig. They take a cherry picker, pull me up, put me on the side of the bike. And now I have nothing on. I'm just holding onto this bike 100 feet in the air. Gary's on his repelling line. They roll the camera. He swings over and grabs me. Now we're supposed to swing back like this, right? We swing back like this. We dropped about 5 feet, maybe 8 feet. And the bike drops and explodes. And I remember thinking, oh, we'll just hold on to this side of the mountain and, we'll climb down. That's what goes through your brain. And the mountain shale is coming off in our hands as we're holding on and thinking, the rope is tied up into some grass up there, and I lean down. Now, this is a matter of seconds. When you're doing a stunt, time slows down. I'm sorry. I look down at the crew and yell, "Get us down now." And all I remember is the crew looking up with their mouth open, not moving. Gary yelled, and then everybody starts moving. So it was a matter of split seconds, but it felt like minutes. They get us down, go up and take a look to see what happened. I hook came out of the ground. So if it wasn't for our backup tie, I wouldn't be doing this interview right now.
That's incredible. Thank God for the backup tie. And now we know why the series was called Bring 'Em Back Alive.
Gotcha.
Right? Now you know. The things that Sandy did for the pleasure of all of us, folks, risking life and limb to get that shot, hanging upside down, flying through the air, mud, masks, costumes, on fire, whatever it took. Where does that come from inside to do that? Are you a risk taker? Do you not have fear, or do you just you must have a tremendous ability to have clarity and focus. I know that you've done a lot of incredible work in self-defense. I believe are you a black belt?
Fourth degree
black belt. So it's always been a part of your world and your existence, but there must be a real focus and clarity where you have to, when you know something that you're going to do for these television shows and these movies is going to require risk and everything has to be precise and rehearsed and what have you. You must have a focus and clarity to block out the things that could happen and super focus on what needs to happen, right?
Yeah, you do, except that you do think about what could happen because you have to think about that. You have to think about that you need an escape. You've got to be able to have that escape. So you've got to figure what could happen doing this stunt. What's the worst thing that could happen, and can I get out of it? So you've got to think about everything about that stunt, not just, oh, it's going to be fine, I'm going to be great. That doesn't work.
If something happens, okay, how do we get out of it? How do we move forward from it?
There's times when the car will slide too close to you. You've got to be able to know that there's a spot for you to go if that car keeps going,
Yeah, right.
You can't just not think about that. So you have to have that, focus. I've turned jobs down that I thought were too dangerous. That was the one thing that I noticed with a lot of people, even growing up. They're afraid to say, no, I'd rather not do that because they think, well, I'm never going to get hired again.
Right. They will get called again. Exactly.
Yeah. And there's been a couple of times that I thought, I'm not real happy with that. I'd rather not do the job, and there's always somebody that wants to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one job on roller coaster. I think it was roller coaster, or it was either roller coaster or earthquake. They all get mixed up.
The movie Roller Coaster, yeah.
And the roller coaster.
So both of them, Towering Inferno, Roller Coaster, Earthquake.
Those are okay, but this one was a roller coaster, and the roller coaster goes up in the air, and I guess the earthquake hits, and the 5 people in the roller coaster, stunt people, have to jump out, and then the roller coaster goes down and comes off the track. Well, Universal was doing it, and I got a call if I wanted to be in the roller coaster, and I said sure, and didn't think much about it. Mickey Gilbert, who was one of my mentors, amazing stunt coordinator, second unit director. God bless him, he's not with us anymore, but that was old age. That was not a stunt. Called me and said, Sandy, do me a favor. If you get a call for this job, don't take it. And I said, why? And he said, I don't know. I just have a really bad feeling about it because you have literally a split second to get away from that chair, that roller coaster.
The roller coaster.
The top. Because once it starts the down dive, it sucks you into the car and you can't get away from it.
That's the roller coaster scene in Earthquake?
Yes.
Yes, I remember that, and the earthquake was happening all around the city, and then the roller coaster starts to, the tracks, the wood, everything starts to come apart too, yeah. And so you're in that?
No. So what happened was he said, do me a favor. I said, well, I took the job, and he said, honey, do me a favor, please. I said, okay, because I trust.
He had a bad vibe.
He had a bad vibe about it, and the way he explained it to me, about getting sucked into it. Once it starts down, I thought, yeah, I don't need this job. So I called the coordinator. I said, listen, would you mind if I don't do this job? I don't know. I just would rather not. And he said, I didn't, say anything about Mickey or anybody else. And he said, oh, don't worry about it. I got plenty of people that want to do the job. I said, okay, cool. All 5 people got hurt. And hurt to the point that a couple couldn't ever work again. Because they couldn't get away from there was just not enough time to get standing up and push off to get away before that thing started this tilt down. It sucked them all in, and when it hit the ground, it literally spit them out onto the ground, into the cement and stuff. And I mean, one girl landed on her knees. JD David, who's one of our top black stunt ladies, she landed on her knees with her knees spread out and broke her pelvis. She never worked again. Everybody on that place broke something. So, yeah, there's times I said no. I don't do motorcycle work. I can't reach the ground. I'm too little. If you give me anything over a 250, give me a 350 or 380, I can't reach the ground. And you never know what they're going to give you as far as a motorcycle is concerned. So we got plenty of girls that are amazing bike riders. Let them do the jobs. But yeah, there's been times that, like I said, it's been a little crazy, but
you were involved with the Towering Inferno, huh?
Oh yeah.
Another epic, those disasters. You had those major movies of the time. You had Roller Coaster was a movie too. There was another one, Earthquake, like you mentioned, the roller coaster scene, which we remember so well. Earthquake in the movie theater in Sensorround. That was the big description, that you feel like, everything's moving in your seat. And of course, the Towering Inferno, I believe, wasn't Fred Astaire and Lauren Green. And
oh my God.
That big cast of people in the Towering Inferno.
Let me tell you a story about that. Because I was actually in the glass elevator, was hanging off the side of the building, but we were all, in the dance floor in the whole.
Oh yes.
With all the big actors and everybody, and Fred Astaire was there, of course. And I had mentioned to a couple of my friends, because we had a lot of stunt people around the show, and I said, that's how I got in the business, was on a Fred Astaire movie, On the Pleasure of His Company. And they went, go talk to him. I go, I'm not gonna talk to him. What, are you crazy? Because you don't bother the actors. You leave them alone. He was sitting at a table, waiting for them to light the lights and set the cameras up and stuff. And they kept bugging me. And I finally walked over to him and said, Mr. Astaire. And he goes, yeah. And I went, I just wanted to tell you, you're responsible for me being in the business. And I explained about, getting in on, working as a dancer on his show and stuff. And he literally got up and danced with me on the dance floor.
And your feet are still tingling to this day, aren't they? Fred Astaire dancing with you.
Yeah,
on the dance. Oh, how cool
absolutely.
is that? You know, The Towering Inferno, like all of those movies of the time, Poseidon Adventure. We just lost Gene Hackman, who was in the Poseidon Adventure. Another epic, Jack Albertson and Shelley Winters. So many people, Stella Stevens. But The Towering Inferno, I mean, it involved so much fuel and fire and walls collapsing and glass and all. And what is it like being on a set like that and working with all of these veteran actors and actresses, some of whom may never have been on disaster movie sets? So it's a whole new experience for them. What is that atmosphere like? I would imagine incredibly invigorating and more, but at the same time, you know, you got all this stuff going on around you. You got to be really alert, especially with something as epic as the Towering Inferno.
Yeah, you definitely had to pay attention because that's why there were so many of the people in that room were stunt people. You know, they were either actors or stunt people. You know, very few extras because they needed people that paid attention and, you know, focused and knew what they were doing and, you know, didn't panic, you know, when something happened. So, yeah, Towering Inferno was a little crazy. Poseidon Adventure was a little crazier than, you know, I think there were more stunts for more people on Towering Inferno, but in Poseidon Adventure, when the ship initially sinks, you know, and turns over, that scene in the dining room when the water bursts through the glass elevators and
Yes,
blows the people off, and the ship turns upside down, and Ernie Ursati falls off of the ceiling, off holding onto a table.
into the glass,
That
right?
whole scene, I was in.
You were
And
in that.
oh yeah, I was in
Oh
that.
my
Was,
God.
was one of the 5 people standing on the platform by the glass elevators when they blow, and all of that was, you know, sugar glass and balsa wood. And what they wanted, we went in and rehearsed, and what they wanted us to do was when the water comes in and breaks the glass, they wanted us to jump off of the platform, and they had cameras all over the floor. So when the water filled the floor, they wanted to make sure that our legs were in front of cameras so they could see, you know, the people trying to get through. We rehearsed and rehearsed, and everybody knew we knew exactly where we were going. We knew where the Christmas tree was going to be. We knew everything except for the force of the water. What happened was when that gas elevator blew, it literally picked us in the air and blew us off the platform. It opened up one of the balsa wood, cut one of the guys' heads open. They had to take him to the hospital. You couldn't figure, you didn't care where the cameras were. You were just fighting to stand up, to stay, you know, get out of your face out of the water and stand up. It was incredible. You know, they yelled cut. We, you know, Ernie, you know, did his high fall, who had never done a high fall in his life. Was a little scared about that. And they yelled cut, and they said, all right, this was way more than we wanted it to be. We're going to let everybody go home for 2 weeks. We're going to clean this set up, redo it in 2 weeks. Okay, fine. The funny part was my daughter and the lady taking care of her were on the set watching that day and never wanted to come back and watch Mommy again. But we went back in 2 weeks, and they did it the way they wanted to do it, which was uneventful. Guess which one they used in the show? The first one, because it was real and it felt real. And you couldn't compare that to a little bit of water coming in and us jumping down. It just was nothing compared to what really happened.
And the scenes underwater, Shelley Winters and the others, you know, underwater swimming. And then when the water was coming up, the stairwell and flushing through. And did you get a chance to work with Gene Hackman, Stella Stevens, Ernie Borgnine?
Yeah, they were all on the set, every one of them. were on the set that day, and then their doubles were on the set, and a lot of stuff that they did. Shelley Winters did, of course, her her stunt double did, because you can't put actors. I mean, through a lot of it, but they still had to do a lot of it. It still had to be them in that water, even if so many of the shots were, of the stunt double, but you never know.
Yeah, absolutely right. You think the whole thing that Shelley Winters doing it, or Jack Albertson, or Ernest Bergnor, any of them, and of course Gene Hackman is sort of the hero in that, and getting them through and out the bottom, and
oh yeah,
those movies really stand the test of time, because they were some of the first that we thought about being on a ship. That Titanic came after the movie, but
right.
Side Adventure was one of those where it rocked people, where we're going to go on a ship and it's going to flip upside down with a rogue wave, towering inferno, being up in a skyscraper, earthquake, roller coaster. These were movies that got people thinking about everyday life, because they had not been done before in such a grand, epic way. Yeah. And
those were fun days.
You still, you can turn on the channels and you can still see the Poseidon Adventure and Towering Inferno and all of these. And folks, if you have not seen these movies, they are classic 70s, disaster movies, as they title them, but they're just the amount of people, like our very special guest, Sandy, and all of the epic stars. I mean, these, when you would have like half of Hollywood starring in these movies, and this person, and Ava Gardner, and Lauren Green. And also, did you work with Steve McQueen in The Towering Inferno? Did you get a chance to work with him at all?
They were all on the set, but like I said, you didn't bother the actors. You kind of let them alone. You just did, and the stunt people kind of hung out together, and the actors would all go to their dressing rooms most of the time. Towering Inferno, it was a little hard, because they would do shots and they'd say, it was such a big room that you could go sit down at a table away from people, and they would light the lights and change the scene, and then we'd go right back to work again. But there were so many stars, you kind of really didn't bother anybody.
You did your thing. Everybody had their role to play, and you went about. What would you say was more risky, being in that situation and Bring 'Em Back Alive, the series on CBS, or the Girl Scout fight situation on Airplane?
Okay.
She was in that too, folks. Yes, she was in that too. She was in everything.
Yeah, that's me on the right. That fight, Conrad Palmisano was coordinating, our stunt coordinator. And
I hope they paid you in Girl Scout cookies at least for that.
Jerry Zucker and David Zucker were directing it together. And they had told the stunt coordinator they wanted a knockout, drag-out fight with two girls. And two girls had never done a knockout, drag-out boy fight before. They had always done hair pulling, rolling on the floor. If you look at the old fights that girls did in those days, you never shot a girl and you never punched a girl. You always, they were pulling each other's hair, or they were rolling on the floor. You didn't have a fight like this. And he wanted a boy fight. So that's what we gave him. And it was so much fun. And who knew that it was going to be iconic? None of us did. The funny part about that is I did that show, and go years ahead. Remember Rat Race? Movie with Whoopi Goldberg, when the guys were looking for $1 million.
Yes.
And Jerry Zucker was directing that. And he had seen a girl in the airport that he liked the look of. And he wanted the girl that had to do the stair fall when the boys are they're setting up a shot glass on the top of the stairs, and they go, once we fall down the stairs, we'll get $1 million and we don't have to go through this race. So they're set the little shot glass up, and here I come walking by. I trip on the glass and fall down the stairs. Well, the girl he saw that he liked the looks of, excuse me, God, she looked like a fat Debbie Reynolds. And so they had this picture of her, and they made me look, with the blonde wig and the thing to make my face fatter, and a padded suit underneath my clothes to make me heavier, which was all great, not a problem. Well, Mickey Gilbert, one of my mentors, was coordinating the show in Vegas, and he brought me down a couple weeks earlier and said, I want you to look at the stairs at the Venetian Hotel and make sure you're comfortable with them, because it's 102 or 110 stairs with 2 landings. And, you just want to make sure. And so I went in, I did some driving, and I got to look at the stairs, and I said, yeah, I'm fine. I can do that, because I can know how to do stair falls. That's easy for me. So we get there. We're on the airplane going, and oh God, there's that senior moment again. Anyway, one of the girls sitting next to me, stunt girl, is on the plane with me. And I said, what are you going to do? And she goes, well, Mickey brought me up to W in case you get hurt. And I went, you're not going to work. And she goes, I know I'm not. So we get there. Now, I never see Jerry, and I haven't seen him since we did Airplane. Okay. So I got to be a Girl Scout. Now he's got me dressed up, not looking like me at all. And I got up to the top of the stairs, and he said, okay, I want you to go down these stairs as fast as you can. I don't want you stopping at any landings. And I went, all right, fine, no problem. So I do the stair fall. I get down to the bottom, and he looks at me and he goes, can you go a little slower? Yeah. So I go up, but basically you do that by twisting your body from one side to the other as you're going down the stairs. And so you're in control. I get down the bottom. Everybody's clapping. Everybody's happy. He's excited. Well, Jerry's wife is sitting next to him producing also. And she said, would it be nice if she went backwards? And he goes, can you do that? I go, yeah. Well, it was either I think it was Mickey Gilbert's son was doing this, because this was second unit or first unit, and Mickey was off doing second unit on the show. And he goes, Sandra, you can't. I said, just walk me to the top of the stairs and don't say anything. And so he walked me up the stairs where nobody was around, and he said, what are you, nuts? And I went, you don't understand. Backwards is easier than forward, because all I have to do is sit down, throw my legs over my head, and I'm on my way. When you're doing a stair fall, you have to reach for the stairs, like 3 stairs or 4 in front of you, and then start going. So he said, okay, fine. So I did it, and it worked perfect. And I said to Jerry at the bottom, I said, don't you remember me? He goes, I don't know you. I go, yeah, you do. I did this. He said, no, you didn't. So I changed my clothes the next day. I'm on set looking like me. And Jerry's on the top of a camera car shooting some outside stuff. And I walked outside and I yelled, hey, Jerry, now do you remember me? And he almost fell off the camera car. Came down and gave me a hug. So there's lots of cool stories that, happen, while I'm working, that make things so much fun.
To make it fun, and it's a different day at the office. Every single day is different, right?
Every day's different.
It's extraordinary when you really look at it, and the amount of things that you've been involved in, Sandy. Even Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, yeah. That was
a classic. Right?
None of these were hard. These were all crazy. I worked 3 months with that. They had to build the costume so that I could move the extra 2 arms like they were my own. So wow. We went to Industrial Light and Magic, where they built the costume, and they brought a guy in from UCLA Prosthetics and literally strapped the extra arms, one on each side, that were connected to this, and taught myself and one other girl how to move your muscles to get the arms to move.
Mm.
Not so good. I could take a phony arm and pick up a glass of water and drink it with the phony arm and put it down.
Wow.
That took 3 months. And then we went on the set to shoot. And we probably worked another 3 months shooting. So yeah, then there's a whole bunch of stories that, are connected to that with the costume and what was going on and all of that. In fact, it's all in my book. All the backstories are in the book.
It's amazing when you do look at your body of work, as I mentioned a couple of times, the amount of things, the stunt roles and numerous films, as I mentioned, The Towering Inferno as well, but Night of the Comet, also The Goonies, Commando, Evil Dead 2, The Lost Boys, Twins. She was in Twins as well. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation back in '89. The Rock, Jingle All the Way, Con Air, as you mentioned, Rat Race as well. And it's extraordinary when you think about it. Escape from New York was an interesting one to be a part of, huh?
Yeah, that was really amazing. I got to double Adrienne Barbeau.
Adrienne Barbeau, yeah.
And the most of it was, of my back instead of her back, walking away from camera and stuff like that. But at the very end sequence, when the car's coming at her, and that whole scene with the car and her and the guns and all of that, that's me. Most of that's me. So, but I got to work on that a lot. One of the things that I am so very blessed to have done was, do you remember Kate Mulgrew doing Mrs. Columbo? Kate Mulgrew.
Yes, right.
Universal in 1980. 1980 was a very hard year for women. And whether you were directing or stunts, and it was a transition kind of year. And mentioning this is because I'm very proud of this show. They had hired a guy to do this show, and drugs were pretty rampant in those days. And they ended up, before they ever started shooting, they let him go. And I knew the director, or producer rather, excuse me. And I was one of the guys that was doing another show called and said, go talk to him. They don't have his coordinator on this show. So I went into his office and said, I want to stunt coordinate the show. Now, I'd been doing some low budget shows by myself and some, independent stuff, coordinating. But girls weren't really coordinating. And one girl was coordinating Charlie's Angels, and she got fired. And guys get fired all the time, and they just go on to get another show. Well, she sued Fox. And nobody wanted to hire a woman after that. And so, he was like hemming and hawing, and, I looked at him and he wasn't looking at me. He was like, look at his desk. And I remember saying to him, are you afraid you can't fire me if I don't do the job? And he went, yeah. And I said, I'll tell you what, if I don't do a good job, you can take me by the ear into your office and I will quit. And he knew me pretty well because I'd been on the lot doing a lot of things. I had already done, a bunch of other shows. So he said, let me think about it. He called me at 6:00 that night and said, okay, you can stunt coordinate the show. So now I'm going to coordinate Mrs. Columbo with Kate Mulgrew and get to double her also. Now, she's taller than I am, but most of the stuff she did on that show, she was driving the car. There she is. And we did one show and they couldn't finish. It was an hour show. They had 7 days to shoot, and there were so many stunts on it, they just couldn't finish the show in 7 days. So we started the second episode, and production manager called me into the show and called me into his office, and he said, we're going to do a second unit, and I'm hiring Bob, whatever his name was, stunt coordinator, to direct second unit, which is all going to be all the action stuff. So we want you on the set and help him with second unit because you know how we shoot. You've been here a week. You know exactly what we like and what our directors like. And I went, I want to direct second unit. He said, they're not going to let you direct second unit. Don't be ridiculous. I said, well, I'm not going to help him. got a big mouth and I open it sometimes. And he said, I don't know what to tell you, Sandy. There's just no way they're going to let a girl direct second unit. And I said, well, I'm not coming in that day to do second unit. I'll be on first unit. So I don't know what to tell you. He said it was time to go home anyway. So I left. I literally went to my car, sat in my car, and started crying because I figured I had just blown the stunt coordinating job too. Well, Dan, my production manager, apparently liked me and trusted me enough that he went to the Black Tower at Universal, as it was called, where the big executives were, and fought for me. And I got a phone call a couple hours later, and all he said to me was, 9 a.m., Black Tower tomorrow, sign your contract, we're buying you your director's card. And I was the first stunt woman to ever direct second unit. And apparently I did okay because I directed second unit on every single episode after that and several other shows after that. So I really broke glass ceilings for women because today we have women that are directing second units and moving into directing also. I'm very, very proud of that.
And as you should be, that's an extraordinary accomplishment. And you have paved the way for so many others doing beautiful work like you have done and continue to do as well. That's a fantastic story. And some people might not realize how that all gelled and came together like that. You know, speaking of people who have also touched our lives and left an indelible legacy, you've also had an opportunity to work with Betty White, huh?
Oh, I love
My name, Earl. Yeah.
I love Betty. Yeah, I got to double her on My Name is Earl.
Right.
Going downstairs, actually.
Right. My name is Earl. Right.
Remember when she did Off Their Rockers?
Yes.
The TV series? Well, I mean, I've got to have done 6 or 7 of those episodes. So if you guys ever get to watch those Off Their Rockers episodes, I mean, I'm hanging in a tree on one. I'm falling off the side of a cliff over at the ocean on one. I'm kicking my husband.
And she's still here to talk about it. You do like to hang upside down, don't you? Like in the Capital One TV commercial. There she is in the Capital One commercial, folks. As I mentioned, and Dentine, she's hanging in the Dentine gum commercial, chewing gum commercial, and this is with the group with Direct TV.
Oh, that would be right.
Direct TV, right? Everywhere she's on your screen, folks. E-Trade as well, and Doritos.
Oh, that's this one. Remember when they have the contests?
Yes.
Well, this was for the contest, and we didn't win. We didn't get to be on the, they didn't get to use it, but it was fun shooting it.
But to do it, look at her hanging here in E-Trade.
Yeah, I was up about 4 stories in the air.
Oh,
in the windows.
Unbelievable. And there's Dentine again and Duracell. And
yes, that was the plane crash, and they have to come find me in the airplane and carry me out.
That's right. That's exactly. Yeah. And Walgreens. She's even in Walgreens.
That commercial was so much fun. I got to actually play me looking like me.
So after you're in the Duracell commercial and you're in the plane crash, you then end up having to go to Walgreens to get your prescriptions.
Yeah. I got to box in this one too. This was so much fun. She gets to box, and we went on this audition, to get the commercial. And what they do is they send you in with another girl, and they have you box in front of, the people. And so I got, I went on this audition, and they wanted a black girl to hold the pads while you box at the pads. And she had never done anything like that. And she says to me, so what do you want to do? And I said, look, hold the pads up. And if you say 1, that's a punch. If you say 2, that's a punch. If you say 3, that's an uppercut. There's numbers coordinated with each one. So we worked it out. We go into this audition, and she says to me, she holds the pads up and she goes, okay, call the numbers. And I'm like, I don't call the numbers. You're supposed to call the numbers. And then she says to me, step back with your right foot. And I'm like, oh my God. So needless to say, I didn't think I got the audition. We start to walk out. And the director says, Sandy, wait a second. And I'd already taken my gloves off. I still had my wraps on. And he said, do me a favor, just shadow box a little bit for me. Let me see what you can do. So I did. I've got a call back, thank God. And they called back another stunt girl by the name of Z. James, who I adore. And she knows how to box. And we went in and we did the audition, and we both got the job. So part of that Walgreens commercial is me boxing with her, right? Now, this takes a lot longer than it looks. It's a few seconds on the camera. And the director, we would shoot it, and then we'd go shoot some more. And I think we were shooting like 2 hours or something like that. And he says to me, do you want to rest for a while? And I went, no, I'm fine. Why? Because I was so used to working out and doing that anyway.
And doing it was part of what you do.
It was easy for me.
Yeah. Napa synthetic oil.
Oh, yes, I love that commercial. That was one of my favorite commercials where I got to play the mother-in-law.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you had that one or not. I got on the audition. I got the job to be the mother-in-law. And they really didn't know I was a stunt woman. They just knew I was an actress, right? So we did the whole talking part where he's putting the oil, the oil in the car, and I'm looking at my watch and going, hurry up, what's the matter with you? And then supposedly she gets in the car and he does all these 180s and jumps the car and does everything. Well, I'm walking towards the set and they've got a dummy dressed like me that they're carrying to the car. And I went, what are you guys doing? Oh, well, don't worry, honey. We're not going to put you in the car. We're going to use the dummy. And I went, do you have a stunt coordinator on this show? And he goes, yeah, Pat Romano. I went, cool. Let me see him. And Pat knew me really well. And I said, Pat, why are you using that? He says, I didn't know it was you. He said, you can do this. Don't be ridiculous. So I ended up in the car while we did 360s and 180s and jumped the car and had to slide back and forth trying to put my lipstick on. And at the end of the commercial where he slides it to a stop, I look at him and go, I'm never getting in that car with you again. And he goes, and that commercial was so much fun.
That's amazing. So many incredible epic. The Truman Show, Bruce Almighty, The Animal, Rob Schneider. I mentioned also The Rock too. Another great one. The Miracle Worker. This one too. This is a great on-set shot.
Oh, I got to work with Daniel Radcliffe on Miracle Worker, and I did the Western part, and then I also did the one after that, which was like Apocalypse.
Yes.
The Apocalypse type. And between the two shows, this was for season 1, and then the Apocalypse was for season 2.
Season 2.
Break, right? And during that break, he did Weird Al Yankovic.
That's right.
So I got a call to play the old lady at the mailbox where I'm trying to put the mail in the box and I can't get it in. He wants to use the mail and he's like panicking. He's like, come on, hurry up, lady. And he finally shoves me out of the way and I go flying and hit the ground. Well, I've got the gray wig on and I'm looking like not me, right? And he doesn't look like him because he's got the Weird Al Yankovic big black hair and the big thing on. And I'm like, I didn't know it was him because the call sheet didn't have his name on it. They do that sometimes, especially when you're on location because they don't want people, coming to the set. So stunt coordinator brings me over and says to Daniel, never mentions his name. He says to him, oh, I want you to meet Sandy. She's going to be the old lady. You're going to shove her out of the way. And he goes, I think I know you. I go, I don't think you do. Because I didn't recognize him at all. So we said, okay, fine, whatever. So now we go to do the shot. He barely is touching me. And I'm going, will you please just shove me? Because I've got to have some motivation. So he does. We get the shot done. Get up. The stunt coordinator says, I want a picture with you before you leave. And I went, okay, fine. So I have a picture of him, of me and the stunt coordinator, and Daniel Radcliffe photobombing us in the back. So now cut to the next season of Miracle Worker. And I'm on the set and he's on the set. And before that happens, I realized it was Daniel. And so I called the stunt coordinator. I said, okay, he was right. He does know me. We did, the first season of Miracle Worker together, or second. So, and Daniel's going, oh, I knew I was right. I knew it. So now I go back on Miracle Worker to work again, right? And he
right.
comes over, jumping up and down like a little kid, yelling, I knew I was right. Ha ha. He's just a little kid. He's like, you talk about a young actor.
Yeah.
He is not that old, that has made so much money doing the shows that he's done, and is the most gracious, kind person you'll ever meet in your entire life. He treats everybody the same. I don't care if you're sweeping the floor. He says hello to everybody. He treats everybody exactly the same. He has got a heart of gold. His stunt double that was on, all of the movies that he did, had gotten hurt really bad. And Daniel actually put together a documentary about his life and working on all of the Peter Potter movies. What do you call them?
Oh, Harry Potter. Yeah.
Harry Potter movies.
Right. Yeah.
And all the proceeds from that documentary he gave to his stunt double. I mean, that's the kind of guy he is.
That is something special. That really is.
Somebody young as he is, to be that amazing. You just don't meet people like that.
Very old soul, old school way, the best way. That's the best way to be. Absolutely. Yeah. Goonies as well. And look at that. It's a great stunt crew.
Cary Green. I got to double Cary Green on that show. Wow. That was so much fun. I got to go down the water slide and jump off of the pirate ship. And it's so nice. It's because she and I get, we talk on the phone all the time now, and we're hopefully still friends. We are still friends. But,
it's amazing. It really is. That must have been cool working on that too, because that developed a cult following too. The Goonies.
God, it sure does. In fact, in April, let's see, what is this? This is March. Yeah, in April, I'm doing a Goonies screening in San Jose for Goonies, and one of the producers and myself are going to talk about the show and stuff after the screening, and I get to sell pictures in my book and stuff, and so does he.
That's so wonderful. You also worked with Olympia Dukakis too, Dunderheads.
Yeah, that was a cult kind of weird horror movie.
Yeah, right.
Horror movie, but it was a horror movie, and I was coordinating it. And I was doubling Olympia because most of the time she was driving the car, so you couldn't see that I was that much shorter than her.
Right.
But she was amazing. What an amazing lady she was. I mean, just incredible.
And of course, her brother was the governor of Massachusetts, ran for the presidential race, Michael Dukakis as well. Some people might not know that connection. Gangster Squad.
Oh, yes. I got to play his wife.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, get killed. We both got shot.
Yeah. And Henry Danger.
Oh, I did a lot of Henry Dangers.
Yes, you did.
Vince Edrick Jr. was our stunt coordinator, and he did a lot of Nickelodeon shows. He did Victoria Victorious.
Yep.
He did Henry Danger, iCarly.
iCarly.
Yeah, so I did all of those shows. This particular episode, they made me look really old, and the old people are trying to get new teeth. So they kidnap the kids, and they go, "Oh, she's got really good teeth. I want her." And then the good guys come in. The Henry Danger comes in and rescues everybody, and there's a scene in here where he picks me up and puts me on the conveyor belt and throws me on the conveyor belt and takes me out of the, supposedly to the trash.
It's just so amazing the amount of generations that you and your work have touched with all of these shows through the decades and movies as well. You've really been a part of a multitude of generations of people and of generations of fans, which is amazing. There's another shot from Gangster Squad.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a great one. We mentioned Poseidon Adventure and Earthquake and all the rest, Towering Inferno, Avalanche. If there's a disaster movie, she's in it as well.
Oh my God, Avalanche. Yes. That shot is right after I'm doubling the little boy, and Dennis Madlone is doubling the father. And this is right after the avalanche hits, and we're on the chairlift, and the chairlift breaks, and we have to, we crawl up to hold on, right? Now, we were up in the air about 30 feet, and we have to jump off, into the snow, except they, of course, you're not going in the snow, you're going to go into a pad. Well, the pad they had real firemen and a real rescue, what do they call them when they hold on to that? It's not a net. I don't know. It's they open it up and then they catch people in it.
Yeah, it's almost like
I'm sorry.
It's not a trampoline, but similar kind of a fabric when you jump into, you land in that, right?
When they're holding that,
the ski patrol helps. Yeah.
Now, if you look at the way I have to go in backwards because my face is up, and I have to go off of that backwards. So it means I can't spot this thing at all. I think I know where it is, and I have to rely on the firemen to move to make sure they catch me. The catch yourself, I guess is basically what it's called. And because I couldn't see it when I went over, I never forget, I let go and I went. I tucked my head so I wouldn't hit my head. And you hit this thing. And all I remember thinking was, I missed. Because it's a hard, hard hit. It's not like going into boxes that collapse or into an airbag that collapses. This thing doesn't collapse. I mean, the fireman's arms move a little bit, but not a lot. And I remember looking around, and I was dead center on that thing, but it sure didn't feel like it when I hit it.
No bumps, bruises, scars?
I've been very lucky as far as
You've been blessed.
Very blessed, yes. I've broken my ribs a couple of times. At this point in my life, I've had both my knees replaced and my hip replaced. But that's wear and tear. They ended up with bone on bone. A lot of my knees, I truly believe, had a lot to do with karate, because Taekwondo, you're doing flying side kicks. You're always hitting bags. You're always snapping, your kicks. And thank God for, you can, yeah, that's me.
There she is, gang. Don't ever steal her parking spot.
But thank God they can replace things in this day and age that, so I'm bionic, but I can still work. I can still do anything I did before. So.
Yes, absolutely. You work with Sacha Baron Cohen too, huh? Oh, look at this. Look at this.
This was the BAFTA Awards.
Right.
Now, if you watch YouTube, all you have to look for is Sacha Baron Cohen kills presenter. And we did this a while ago now, but Sacha would not let me talk about this for quite some time because he wanted it to be a secret. Nobody knew that this was going to happen. My stunt coordinator and the lady that put on the show is the only two people that knew. We had gone in the day before, put pads on the floor, and rehearsed Sacha hitting the wheelchair and pushing it off the stage. So he hit it just right. That was the only rehearsals we had. That was the only day we had pads. Now, we go into work. There's 3.5 hours of makeup to get me to look that old. Thank God I had a long dress with long sleeves on, so I could wear my elbows and knee pads. His wife was there, and he had flown his mom and dad in from England, and they brought them back in the dressing room and, introduced me to them. And Sasha is saying to me, maybe when you hit the ground, I may turn you over and do mouth to mouth. And I went, okay. His wife goes, don't worry about it. He has no diseases. He's fine. So we were kind of laughing about that, and like I said, nobody in the audience knew what was going to happen. There were no pads on the floor, nothing. And the only thing I was worried about was the wheelchair hitting the back of my legs when I landed. So I had taken my shin guards and turned them backwards on me, just in case it hit me. Well, we're backstage, and Selma Hayek is, wheels me out on the stage. And she didn't know what was going to happen either. And she looked down. I will never forget. I literally was biting my cheeks not to laugh. She looked down at me and she said, "Are you all right, dear?" I went, "Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you." It was like, so she wheels me out. I take the cane. I present it to Sasha, tell him that since I was the last living person to ever work with Charlie Chaplin, and this is his cane, and he would love you to have it. And he kisses me, and he twirls the cane, leans on it. It breaks. He falls into the wheelchair, and I go flying off the stage. The only thing we were worried about was, when people are sitting at tables where they've eaten, when the show starts, they take their chairs and they turn them. And I only had a little bit of room to fall without hitting a table or somebody. And so Alex Daniels, the stunt coordinator, was literally sitting at the front table with a group of actors. And just in case somebody turned their seat in, make sure that they didn't, which nobody did. And if you watch the video, everybody goes, you hear them gasp, and then you hear them start laughing because it's Sasha. Then they realized it had to be, a joke. So I land on the ground. He jumps off the stage. He turns me over, tries to give me mouth to mouth. And Alex is down, comes down to stand next to me so that nobody else gets near me, because a couple other people tried to get up and come down. And he goes back on the stage and then talks about that I'm the last living person. Oh, I was the last living person to be, working with him. And then Alex, which we did not rehearse and I did not know was going to happen, literally picks me up, throws me over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes, and walks around the room with me on his shoulder saying, "What do I do with her? What am I supposed to do with her?" And I'm like, "Don't laugh. Whatever you do, just don't laugh." So it was the most fun job I've ever done.
That's an incredible story. And I tell you, the fact that it wasn't really known how it was done and the way that it was done, and you're able to pull it off, you guys, it's extraordinary. You also did some...
Everybody has seen it.
Right, exactly. You've also done some great work with Seinfeld too over the years.
I got to stunt coordinate that whole entire show.
Isn't that,
besides, do stunts on it. But yeah, I got to coordinate the just tons of episodes of that. And remember the birthday party episode where he comes running out of yelling, "The kitchen's on fire," and hits the old lady with the walker and knocks her over head over heels over the walker?
That's the work of Sandy.
Yeah. Well, what's so cool is when I was young, I was doubling kids all the time. And now that I'm older, and for quite a while, I've been doubling older ladies, or ladies that are older, and playing the old lady myself. So, you put a gray wig on me, and I get to be the old lady, get to do the part, and get to do the stunt.
You get to
I did rookies. I just did a rookies where I actually got to look like me. And I think it airs sometime this month in March.
Oh, look for that. Yeah, Rookies. That's a great series. Also, this one too said
Bo,
this is great. Hearts of the West.
yeah, Bo Bridges. In fact, Bo worked on it, and so did his dad, Lloyd.
Yep.
Worked on it. Bo and I are extremely good friends, and have been ever since Other Side of the Mountain that we did together. But I got to stunt coordinate and direct second units on all of these shows. We got to have Bo up on the mechanical bull, and shoot. So we got some close-ups of him looking like he's riding the bull. And then I actually had a stunt double on a real bull doing, riding the real bull. So we interacted the two shots together, and it looked like he was really riding the real bull.
That's incredible. Wow. 7 hours of judgment.
Yeah, that Bo directed. I got to be his right-hand man, the girl,
Right.
in the show. And I got to play Mrs. Reardon and get thrown in front of a moving train and end up in the hospital. The funny thing that happened on this show was we had
Probably only a few people that would giggle and find joy of ending up in the hospital is Sandy. That means she's working.
we had two guys on the show that had to do a fight, and we were in Seattle shooting, and so we got the two guys from a gym, and they knew how to fight. They were fighters. Only problem is you got to fight for the camera. The camera's got to show a hit, not a miss. And so you can't really hit each other. And we did the rehearsals, and we brought the camera in, and the cameraman says, they're not hitting. It's a miss. It's a missing camera. I said, well, let me tell them how to do it. Hold on. So I walked in, I said, guys, let me show you how to do that, how to punch. Oh, we know what we're doing. You can't. Yeah. First of all, I'm a girl and I'm not very tall. And I'm telling these two guys how to fight all the time. And they wouldn't listen. And the cameraman said, looking at me and going, it's a miss. The cameraman looked at them and he said, will you please just let her show you what to do? And they went, oh, fine. I walked in. I said, okay, you're standing here. When you go to punch, you pick up your arm and you follow through with your elbow and you hit. And so I said, you stand there. And I did the punch, and the camera goes, that's a hit. So after that, they shut up.
That's all it took, right?
Yeah.
That's a hit, and that's a print.
Now do it the way I showed you. And they did.
Do it the way I've showed you.
Yeah.
I mentioned briefly in the introduction too, you mentioned working on Halloween Town, and that must have been terrific too, huh? Pretty cool experience.
Yeah, that was so much fun. I mean, she was, every time I got to work with her, it was just
Debbie Reynolds. Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible.
A real star in every way. I want to make mention too, we're going to real quick, we got the Stellar Fest in the book, but you also had your own workout video, which we dug out. Stunt Blasters. There she is. The cardio challenge and more. Tell us about that.
Well,
it's cool.
I believe in working out. I believe in moving. Don't ever stop, and my videos, I did actually 3 of them. I did the cardio. I did one with weights. I did, one's a little slower. That I think it's very, very important for people to keep moving. Mm-hmm. And the big problem with our generation of older people that they go, oh, I'm going to retire. Well, then they retire and they don't do anything. They sit on the couch and watch television or something. And you can't do that because within a year, you find them dying.
Yeah.
Or getting or can't move anymore. And I did this because I really believe in working out. And I don't care if you can't do what I do, then walk around the block, do something. But these videos aren't hard. They were fun. And I think I still have a couple of them left, but I got my friends, stunt people, my sister and a few other people to help me, work, because they all work out. So I got to do that. And I was very proud of that. That was fun.
You've done work also, like you mentioned your black belt, but also you've done video work and things to show people self-defense too, right?
Yeah,
And there
self-defense.
you are.
The one thing I have found with, I got my black belts from Billy Blanks. And
Oh, Billy Blanks, yep.
he also invented Taibo, which is basically what I still do. But the karate and getting my black belts I got from him. And I started taking karate laugh when I was 50. And I remember he was doing a workout class, and Jane Fonda had just closed her gyms, and I said, a bunch of us decided, well, we'll go do whatever he's doing. And I'd taken 2 or 3 classes, just workout classes. And he said to me, so I understand you're a stunt lady. I went, yeah. And he goes, you know karate? I went, And he goes, you should know karate if you're a stunt lady. I said, look, I'm 50 years old. I don't want to learn anything new. Leave me alone. Well, you don't say that to Billy Blanks. He kept poking me with this karate stuff. And I finally looked at him and said, fine, I'll take karate. That make you happy? Well, I took 1 class and I wanted my black belt. I mean, I was hooked. And I took every class that you can imagine. And he kept saying to me, it's going to take you 20 years to get your black belt, which he did not. But I ended up, after I got my first degree, I started teaching for him and started teaching kids and adults. And we had another gentleman that taught at the gym. His name was John Arthur. And John repped boxers. He was a street fighter. And he had James Toney, who was, champion boxer. And he would teach some of the classes at night and teach us a lot of street fighting and stuff and self-defense stuff. And then Billy would teach us a lot of self-defense that, you learn in karate classes and stuff. And so the one thing I've found is that most people, women especially, if somebody grabs you, they don't know what to do. The first thing they do is start to pull away. That's the worst thing you can do, because now you have no power and they have all the power. So think about the fact that now you're pulling away from somebody and they're coming at you. What are you going to do? What you basically have to do is go into them. Now they have no power. Once you step in, you have the power. And there's several things that you can do. And I've taught a lot of self-defense classes to women. And it's so funny, like I'll be working on a set and we'll be having lunch and we'll start talking about karate and self-defense. And I'll have the hairdressers and the makeup and the ladies on the set going, show me what to do. Show me what you're talking about. And so we'll get up in the middle of lunch and we'll start doing self-defense stuff. And they're going, oh my God, that's so easy. Takes no power, takes no strength. And, that's the one thing about self-defense. You have to be, and be aware of what's around you. The one thing that drives me crazy with the kids is they've got the ear things on and they're looking at their phone and
there could be an ambulance coming and they won't even hear it.
They don't hear anything, and by that time, somebody's on top of you, and it's crazy. You can't walk around in this world today like that.
No.
I mean, yeah, when I was 10, you could, but not today.
Not today. No. So it's good to have that. And you work out regularly. You worked out pretty much most of your life, right?
Worked out all my life.
Eat well. And
yeah, I work out 3 to 4 days a week.
What's your routine?
I do what was Taibo, which they're now called different things in different places. I actually go to Millennium here in California. It was a dance studio, and I take Irene Blank's, Millie Blank's sister teaches, and Michael Blank's teach a thing. They call it drenched because they're not, using the words Taibo, but that's where I go. I do that, and then I do some weight work at home, and during the week, and ride my bike and that stuff.
That's cool stuff. That's so great that you're so active and staying active and keeping the blood flowing and the juices flowing and the
Yeah.
creative juices flowing as well. And also the writing juices as an author, stunt lady. Tell
Yeah,
us about this. Congratulations.
thank you. I'm so proud of this. I mean, my daughter was yelling at me for years to write a book about my life before it's too late, she kept saying. And I last year wrote it and published it last year. It's on my website,
Amazon
you know,
and your website. What's the website?
sandragimpel.com.
There it is.
If you buy it there, I can sign it, personalize it to you, and send it out. If you buy it, you could buy it on Amazon, but I can't sign it.
Yeah.
You just buy it from them.
It goes through their warehouse, right? Yeah.
Right. It goes right from the warehouse, and they can send it, across, to other countries. But I can't really, because what happens is it costs me too much to send it.
Back and forth, right?
Crazy.
So go to that website on the screen right there, folks. And plus there's all kinds of other photos and video and all kinds of beautiful.
It's really my life.
Yeah, it is the life, right? Yeah. What was it like writing and putting this book together, sort of compiling things in this way?
It was funny. Once I sat down to write it, I thought, you know what, start at the beginning and just go straight through. And that's what I did. There were times where I'd be writing and I'd think, oh, wait, I forgot about such and such a show. So I would go back and insert, what I'd written. And then I had an editor correct the spelling and the punctuation because I'm the worst. And then he put the pictures where the stories were for me. And the one thing I said to him is, do not change how I wrote it, because I want it to sound like I'm talking to you. And that's how I wrote it. Like I was talking to you, like I was telling you the story, and all the stories behind the scenes and what happened on the sets and things that people have no idea about what happened. I was very careful not to mention names to get people in trouble. Some of them you can kind of figure out, but yeah, I'm very proud of the book.
You have it there too, right? It's right next to you, the book too.
It's right
Yeah.
here.
So there's photos inside and all kinds of cool things.
Oh my gosh, there's like, see if I can find some pictures there's lots of space. It's funny. There are pictures that I had signed, because when we were working in those days, you didn't have a camera on the set, you didn't have a cell phone, and you didn't ask for autographs. So all the autographs I have, what I did was I went, could you send a picture for me for my daughter? So there are all these pictures assigned to her. And she goes, those are mine. I went, no, they're not.
No, they're not.
No, they're not. They're mine.
Do you stay in touch with some of the folks you worked with over the years, like a Billy Mooney on Lost in Space? Do you stay in touch with the various folks?
Yeah, Bill. It's funny with Bill. We were communicating a lot, online, on Facebook and, that way. And he actually, I had talked to him about, before I wrote the book, I talked to him about the pictures and make sure that I could get everything I needed. And in the beginning of the book, there are testimonials that I had from him and a couple of other people that, I was, Bo Bridges and Bill Mooney and stuff. But a couple of years ago, I was doing the Hollywood show here, signing autographs and stuff. And I remember I gotten up and walked over to someplace, or we were walking in, and somebody's tapping me on the back of my shoulder, and I turn around and it was Bill. And we were like, oh my God, we were hugging each other. It was so nice to see him. I mean, you don't realize how fast time goes by you. I'm here. He was 11 years old when we worked together, and he's got his own kids and grandkids, and I'm not that old.
It's amazing when the time flies and you look back and, you mentioned the Hollywood show, which is fantastic. And also coming up, there is the Stellar Fest, and you're going to be there. This is happening in Duluth, Georgia, this April 4th through 6th, and the good people there are putting together something really special. It's Atlanta's ultimate event for sci-fi enthusiasts. A lot of great guests going to be there, and you can see on the screen some of the information as far as Sandy going to be there as well. You like doing these kinds of things, and you're excited about being a part of Stellar Fest. There's stellarfest.org. You can get tickets and information and more. They're great people, huh?
Oh, they're wonderful. In fact, the reason that I'm going to be able to do this show is because Marta Kristen, who did Lost in Space, is doing the show also.
Yes, yes. We hope to get her on as well. Would love to get her and Billy Mooney too to come on. We've Angela Cartwright's been on. We've had so many great people.
That's cool. Yeah. Marta and I did a show together and got to reconnect, a couple of years ago, which was really cool. And so we've been talking and stuff. And the reason I'm doing this show is because of her. And she's doing the show too. So that's going to be so cool doing another show with her again. But
that's going to be amazing.
Shows. I get to talk to people and meet people. And, what's so interesting is like, I do the Vegas show for Star Trek. And the very first one I did was the 50th anniversary. And I had never done one of these shows. I didn't even know they existed. And I know sitting at the table, and I still do it. Every place I go is people are always asking me about what I've done, and the costume and, the salt vampire and all of this. And I want to know what they do, and I was shocked. I mean, especially in Vegas, they were astronauts and doctors and lawyers and physicists. And I'm going, oh my God. And they go, oh, please. It's because of Star Trek that I became a nuclear physicist from watching the show, because who would have thought that we would even have an iPad or a cell phone or any of the stuff he had on the show in those days, because we didn't have that. And it influenced them to become who they are. And so it's so cool talking to these people and, getting to know what they do and where they came from. And, they were young. They were 11 years old, 12 years old when I was 20 years old or 22.
Going to be amazing. It's quite an event too. I was talking to the organizers, Chris and all. They really are. And a dear friend is also going to be there too on the panel. Chris Corman, Harvey Korman's son, who's a dear friend of ours and a treasured guest on the Jim Master Show series. It really is something. It's founded by two Atlanta sci-fi fanatics, real fans, spurred on by their supportive community of friends and family from early childhood, exploring television and movies that open up their minds to the cosmos, to decades of experience, and attendees and staff and vendors. It's just going to be a wonderful thing as everybody comes together. They've been to many conventions, but they wanted to put something together like this. And this is a huge sci-fi convention in the Atlanta area that everybody's waiting for. And you're going to have the wonderful Sandy there and some of your favorites from television and film and movies and books and podcasts and comics. And they're all going to be there. And whether you're a Trekkie or, Whovian or Star Wars enthusiast, a lover of all things galactic, Stellar Fest really has something for everybody. You're going to be involved in thrilling live action games and test your knowledge of sci-fi themed trivia, groove to the tunes by talented musicians, and unleash your creativity in the hands of workshops and activities, or just bask in the wisdom of experts like Sandy and everybody that's going to be there during the captivating panel discussions. And again, here is the information for those who, if you're watching this episode of the Jim Master Show a year from now, this will have passed, but look for other events like this. But stellarfest.org is the website. They're wonderful people, and we're so happy to, spread the word for them about this great event coming up in Georgia and Duluth in the Atlanta area at the Sonesta Gwinnett Place. And this legendary figure that's going to be there is going to be saying hello and answering questions. And as she just said, she loves doing that as well. Sandy, you're absolutely amazing. As I mentioned, you have truly touched us in so many extraordinary ways. There's the website again to get the book and also learn more about our illustrious guest, Sandy. And just thanks for all that you've come. Thanks for taking the hits for all of us in the hits. Really, I know when you look at it, what are some of those continuing blessings and joys in your life next to the wonderful cat that's wrapped around your head comfortably there the whole time, listening intently to the conversation? What are some of those blessings and joys that keep you doing what you do and do so well, Sandy?
I love what I do. I love my life. I love what I do. I think if everybody loved their job as much as I do, we have a much better world to live in. But I've been so blessed to be able to do what I'm doing, which was not planned, but it just happened. And I couldn't have asked for a better job. I don't think it is a job. I don't ever want to grow up. I get to play all the time. So I'm going to work as long as I possibly can. I hate to admit it, which I'm going to, and tell you right now how old I am. But I'm very proud of the fact that I can still work and still do what I do. And I'm 85 years old. So.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You're a ray of sunshine and a delight filled with the energy of life and the passion, and you're curious. And I just think it's so cool. You're an inspiration for many other people in the industry, and you've broken ground for many as well over the years, which I think is a real important part of the Sandy legacy. It's beautiful work, truly. And you've enjoyed the ride and continue to.
No, I appreciate it. And thank you for having me on your show. And I hope I get to see you guys over at Stellar Fest, because that's going to be so much fun.
You really are amazing. And when I was looking at doing the research, because I was very familiar with your work and but there were some things I forgot about. Poseidon Adventure. I don't know how I forgot about that, because I love that movie, and everything that you've been involved in. It's truly amazing, my friend. Thanks for spending all this time, being so generous with your time, as we've done little Ralph Edwards, This Is Your Life sort of here. But it's a free-flowing conversation. Your stories are epic and wonderful, and I really appreciate your sharing them with us and our viewers. I know they've absolutely loved it. We're going to keep that porch light on for you. You are welcome back. You have a home here at the Jim Masters Show series anytime, Sandy. And spread the word about our series to others you think might like to pop on, whether for an extended conversation or something quick. But it's a really true honor and blessing to have you here on our show.
Thank you so much. I've been an honor for me to be on your show. I really, really, truthfully, I love you. Thank you so, so much.
We love you back, Sandy. We love you back. Really incredible. You be well. Congratulations on the book. Have a ball at Stellar Fest and everything else. And definitely come see us again, okay?
I'd love it. Thank you.
You are incredible. You be well. You take care. We're just waiting to see. Is she going to just get up off the chair, or is she going to do some backflip or something?
Yeah, my kitty's sitting up there.
I was going to say, the cat could probably do some acrobatics. They're amazing, the things that they can do. Dive off refrigerators and just.
Don't give him any ideas.
Yeah. Well, seems to be resting comfortably there. Sandy, thank you very much. You be well, and let's stay in touch, okay?
I would love it. Thank you.
All right. You take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Sandy Gimpel here on our show. What an extraordinary, epic, exclusive conversation. What a generous spirit, too. Her stories are extraordinary. We're so honored to have her here as part of the Jim Masters Show. Lovety family. We say lovety, love and levity. And she really, when you look back at the amount of things that she's been a part of, even from her own childhood on. We talked about Lost in Space. There she is with Billy Mooney. And we talked about Star Trek and all the iterations as well. And some really amazing stories that she shared behind the scenes of what it was like being in these kinds of costumes and the masking and the makeup and all the years with the iconic Elvis Presley and all the movies. Now, when you watch or rewatch these Elvis movies, you're going to be looking for her. There she is in the bottom there in the green dancing. And she's in the green there as well on the right of your screen. Countless Elvis Presley movies. Planet of the Apes. I mean, it's really extraordinary. This is decades of Americana, truly. HR Pufnstuf. We went through it all. If you joined us late, don't worry. We are archiving this episode so you can see the whole thing. And also Fembot, Bionic Woman, and Battlestar Galactica, Escape from New York. I mean, it's just epic. The movies and the television shows, and in the commercials, as I mentioned, everything from Capital One to Dead Teen, DirecTV, and E-Trade. Yep, she does window washing on the side. That's an E-Trade commercial. Great background about the scenes in the Walgreens commercial. Yeah, that was cool too, huh? And Napa, and so much more. And also, too, Harper Valley PTA. We didn't mention this one, but she worked with Barbara Eden. The wonderful, there she is with Barbara Eden as well. Harper Valley PTA. Remember that series, which came after I Dream of Jeannie? Harper Valley PTA was another one that she was very involved in, stunt coordinating and more. And with Rob Schneider and The Animal and The Rock and great stories. Daniel Radcliffe. This is a great shot here from Miracle Worker, and on and on and on, folks. Really amazing. Here is her book one more time. We want to show that. And in order to get the book, well, yeah, Amazon, all the places where books are sold, or if you're looking for an autographed copy, you can go right to her website. There it is on your screen. Don't forget as well, for those who are traveling to Georgia, because they are big sci-fi enthusiasts, she's going to be at Stellarfest. You can go to stellarfest.org, O-R-G, to see Sandy and so many other of your favorite stars from sci-fi movies and television, comics, and so much more. They're going to all be there, and we thank them as well. So good stuff, gang. We thank Sandra for being with us, and we thank you for being with us as well. She really is a part of American cultural, pop culture, and entertainment history. And she shared some of it with us here exclusively on the Jim Masters Show. Thanks, everybody, for all your fabulous comments. We love that. And if you'd like to drop a comment right now or at any time underneath this episode, well, you can do so right on our YouTube channel, which is Jim Masters TV. That is really terrific because we have hundreds of episodes, hundreds and hundreds of great celebrity friends and guests. Give this episode a thumbs up, like, share the episode on your social media, leave a comment, drop a comment below. What's some of the great shows and movies and television shows and more that you love that Sandy was a part of, whether she was acting in it and doing the stunt work herself or coordinating and paving the way for so many others. Share your comments below. We love that. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, where the action happens. And to everybody watching, we thank you for watching and supporting and sharing all that we do here at JMS. We really appreciate all of our viewers. We thank you very, very much for watching and commenting and sharing. You mean the world to us. And Sandy is also very appreciative of all of her fans, and she has many. And I'm just blown away by the amount of things that she's been a part of, from Lost in Space to the Towering Inferno to being the stunt coordinator through all the seasons of Seinfeld. Really, really amazing. So she is an iconic figure in Hollywood and in our hearts and minds. Sandra Lee Gimpel, Sandy, joining us here on the Jim Masters Show. Loved it. If you did too, let us know. We love talking to these great guests, celebrity friends and guests. Some of them become friends once they come on our show. Some of them are friends before they come on the show. And some of these amazing people, once they come on the Jim Masters Show, we become friends. We stay in contact. I see them at events. We talk on the phone or through email, what have you. And many of them want to come back on our show, and we really appreciate that. We hope you come back too. And you can binge watch all the other episodes. There are hundreds of great guests from TV and film and music and food and stage and everything you can think of, all archived for your pleasure. So thanks again one more time. She will be at Stellar Fest. Go to stellarfest.org. Check that out. You can say hi to her. Tell her that you saw her on the Gym Masters Show series. She would love that. They would love that too. And yeah, that's coming up in April. But for those of you who are watching this past that time, she'll be at other events, I'm sure, as well. She is a blessing, and so are you. Thanks for stopping by the Gym Masters Show and spending this amount of time with us. We really appreciate you being here with us. Come see us again. As I always say, don't forget to love one another. Take care of one another, and don't forget to do the same for yourself. Take care of one another, and don't forget to do the same for you. It's important to do that. We love you all, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Gym Masters Show. I'll be right here waiting for you in what we call Lovity Hall here at JMS. All right, you take care, be well, okay? See you soon. Be right here waiting for you for the next episode of the Gym Masters Show. Take care and be well. This was a fun episode, wasn't it? We'll see you soon. Cheers.